What's happening, guys? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the worst mistake that NASA ever made. This is Armageddon on Action Movie Anatomy. We'll see you guys in just 1 second.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Action Movie Anatomy.
Boom! What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Oh, it's exciting.
Don't want
No, you're singing the wrong song.
I love this. Damn it. This is the song, damn it. I'm like all inspired now.
Yeah.
This is when you know great things are about to happen.
That's right.
I sometimes want to walk into a room and just have this playing behind me. Like, in the world, I think the most successful people in the world probably have this playing in their head at all times.
Always.
They're like making their coffee in the morning and this is playing.
Yes. I'm gonna solve cancer today.
I think I'm gonna go egg whites this morning.
They're like, all right, well, I only have limited time to get in the shower before I get to work, and then the music changes like dun 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 dun. Yeah. Anyway, guys, welcome to the show. This is Action Movie Anatomy. This is the Armageddon episode of Action Movie Anatomy. We have a very special guest, and I am your host, Ben Bateman, joined today by the co-creator, co-producer, and co-host of the show, Mr. Andrew Ghai.
Yeah. Oh, that was great. That was the best intro I think I've ever gotten.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? I'm so excited to be here. I've seen Armageddon for the first time in 15 years yesterday. I know. John's going to kill me.
Oh my gosh.
And, Ben, should we introduce our guest?
Yeah, this is someone who came on the show for The Fifth Element and literally said on the show, Armageddon's the greatest American action movie ever made. We were like, well, I guess there's no way we're not having you back when we do the movie.
There's no way we can't do it.
Welcome to the show, Mr. John Rocha.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. I couldn't be more excited to finally have one podcast where I can talk, or show rather, where I can talk about this movie extensively. I've been waiting since I started in this business almost 2 years ago to be able to talk about this movie extensively on some show, and I always slide it in when I can. But I'm super excited about what we're going to do today. Super excited.
We're super excited because what we love more than anything is people that are so excited to talk about a specific film or specific topic.
Yeah.
And you're the perfect guy for it.
Thank you.
I think the whole idea is that, like, if when you find someone who loves one movie that much, it's like that's the whole reason we do the show. Because something actually really interesting happened to me the other day. And guys, we are going to get into the movie, I promise. Let's be very brief. But, you know, I nerd out about the certain movies that I really nerd out about. And, for instance, there's a Nick Cage movie called The Weatherman, which is like one of my favorite
Great
movies.
film.
Yeah,
Yep.
criminally underrated.
Yep.
He's great in it. And I like watched it, and I was like, man, I want to talk to someone about this movie, but I've ranted to Andrew about
He
it.
just keeps calling me. Because
Extensively.
I love that movie as well.
Yeah.
But I was like, I wonder if there's like a podcast about that movie. So I look it up, and there's one episode of a show called Cage Club. Okay, it's a new podcast I just found. It's these two guys. They do only Nick Cage movies. They've done every single one.
Nice.
It's an hour long. It's a pretty good show. I was impressed. And I listened to this full hour on The Weatherman. And I was like, there's a fucking hour on the internet about The Weatherman. I was like, and that's, to me, I was so excited to find it. So you just know that, like, you love this movie more than anything. Someone's going to find this episode and they're going to be like,
Damn right.
the biggest fan of this movie.
And I welcome you to this episode if you found this episode, because we are going to have a good time talking about this movie.
Hell yes,
And
we are.
Family Man is another great one from Nick Cage.
Also
Both of
really
those.
Him and Tay Leone, right?
Yeah.
I love that movie.
The post leaving Las Vegas run he has, the decade, is really good.
Yep.
Really good.
It's so weird and scattered as well.
Yeah, totally.
But it's fantastic.
It's a really good 10 years.
I wonder if he'll get recast in Armageddon later on.
Get it.
Maybe he will.
Guys, if you want to follow along with the conversation, please catch us on Twitter. You can find the Twitter, our Twitter.
The
Twitter. The Twitter for
You
the
can
show.
find Twitter on the internet.
If you Google it. At AMA Podcast is where you will find the Action Movie Anatomy Twitter. You can find mine personally at Ben Bateman Media, Twitter and Instagram. Andrew, where can the folks find you?
You guys can find me at Andrew Ghai on Instagram and Twitter. And actually, I got a new show coming out this Friday for the Popcorn Talk Network.
Oh, cool.
It's
Nice.
going live. It's well, I don't want to talk about it too much, but it's unproduced scripts that we're doing table reads for. Our first show is this Friday at 10:30 Pacific. You guys should tune in, check it out. It'll be a lot of fun. Anyway, that was my plug.
And you're doing the whole thing in Nick Cage voice, right?
Doing the whole thing in Nick Cage voice.
I love that.
Rocha, where can the folks find you?
I'm tweeting right now for people to come watch us live, because I'm going to talk about this movie like crazy, and people, there are numerous friends of mine on Twitter and in real life who are massive fans of this film.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever I post it on Facebook, by the way, you can follow me at the Rocha Says, ROCHA, on Twitter and Instagram. Whenever I post about it, get massive tweets, and my friends on Facebook will comment, and we'll just go through lines.
Yes.
There are 30 comment threads just going through lines, because those of us who love this movie fucking love this movie.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is when you post a movie, or you're talking about how much you love a movie online, you know the people that are really on board when they just write a line back in response.
Yeah,
You're
right.
like,
Yes.
yes!
Yeah, totally.
You're down. Yeah, like I posted about Forgetting Sarah Marshall last night, and people were like tweeting lines.
Yeah,
It was
I
great.
saw that.
Yeah.
So good. So guys, this is Action Movie Anatomy. We talk about action movies here. Those action movies usually adhere to 4 basic rules. Rule number 1, the hero always plays by their own rules. Now, this is definitely an action movie, but it's not the traditional model because the villain is an asteroid. So,
Meteor the size of Texas.
yeah, I mean, this is the classic. This is the classic dual hero thing we always
Yeah,
have.
we talk about the classic dual hero thing, and then we also say that the villain can be aliens, monsters, you
whatever,
know,
yeah.
trains, or
train,
meteors.
yeah. So that I think the hero does play by their own rules because both sides of the hero do. You know, I think you can say that those guys are definitely the heroes, and Affleck and Willis are, for sure.
Is that like a common thing in Bay movies to split his hero in half, like in The Rock,
Bad Boys.
Bad Boys, like in Transformers?
That's a good point.
That could
actually.
work in a Bayism.
Yeah.
We got some Bay-isms coming up, guys. Got a new one.
So rule number 2: the hero and the villain are always the smartest people in the room. I mean, they can't outsmart the asteroid.
Right.
So I guess they are. I mean, Willis is definitely 100% the smartest guy in the room. He knows everything.
Yeah.
Third generation driller. You know.
Absolutely, best in the world.
The one thing he doesn't know how to do is fail. That's the
Right.
one thing he
That's
doesn't know.
right.
Or parent his daughter correctly until later in the film. Rule number 3: the movie is driven by a police, military, political, or mercenary figure. This one's way off because they're
Well-
drillers.
Well, but they are
yeah.
political. I mean, they're hired by NASA.
They're hired by
guess.
NASA.
They work for the government.
It works.
They're astronauts.
Because we do say you can either be the man or work for the man.
True.
And they're working for the man.
As in, if you were an MTA operator in the taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. So
Only
rule
got a half gallon of milk today.
rule number 4: the movie contains a minimum of 1 explosion. I mean, this is a Michael Bay movie. Are you kidding? There's like an explosion before the credits even start.
Yeah, absolutely there is. Of course.
It's like, I mean, just cutting between things. There's just like things blowing up without sound.
I
Yeah.
always love in any Michael Bay film on the trivia on IMDb, there's always a cut timer for the average cut in the movie. 1.5 seconds.
Yeah.
1.5 seconds.
They're like, Michael, can't we use some of the montage explosions from a previous film of yours? No one's gonna notice. No, we have to blow some shit
Blow
up.
some new shit
Yeah.
out.
Have to
Do you know
blow
who
some-
I am? No,
You
we're
know
not doing
who I
that.
So, guys, if you want to follow along, obviously, this is the Popcorn Talk Network. At the Popcorn Talk, we have a ton of cool shows here, and let's get straight into it. So we're going to start out by watching the trailer to the film
Yes!
Armageddon.
1998 trailer, they're just starting to get good.
Yeah. Eddie Griffin?
Of course.
Yes. Remember when he had a chance?
Yeah.
Double take. Music already.
Yeah.
Super
Already
super
Michael Bay.
racist take on black characters.
Come
That's a
on.
Bayism.
That is one that
That's a
is-
Bay-ism.
That's absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Talking loudly.
What hit us? Small asteroid fragments this morning. How big were those?
Love that guy.
Sweet.
Those were nothing. The size of basketballs and Volkswagens.
This new one you're tracking, how big?
It's the size of Texas, Mr. President.
Let me reduce this to the simplest possible version for you.
Global killer. The end
A
of the
global
mankind.
killer.
Such a good line.
Yeah.
Incinerated by the heat blast. The rest will freeze to death in nuclear winter.
Basically the worst parts of the Bible.
It's a good line.
It's biblical.
Hitting the rock from the outside will do the job.
So, we nuke this thing from the
Yeah,
inside.
the jets flying overhead is just
Yeah.
classic.
Oh, yeah, that's another one. Yeah, yeah.
I think Rocha said that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Off camera, yeah.
Just asked us to save the world.
We're talking about space, right? Outer space? This is like deep blue hero stuff.
I'm there.
I'm with you.
Beam me up, Scotty.
It's just a bunch of actors playing themselves in this movie. That's the other funny thing, right? Owen Wilson is just Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
This terrible battle is being called into service. May we all see these events through with the courage worthy of this challenge.
I wish this guy played Truman as well. I'm not sure if he does or not.
Hey, Harry, you know we're sitting on 4 million pounds of fuel, 1 nuclear weapon, and a thing that has 200,000 moving parts, built by the lowest
Bitter.
Makes you feel good, doesn't it?
We're going.
Oh,
Okay, gentlemen.
male dominant domestication seeming funny.
Heroes just sit back and enjoy the ride.
Guy just screaming at his wife, just totally abusive.
On the 14 brave
Bring me the book!
Yeah.
Bring me the goddamn book!
It's always like that.
Welcome to space.
What movie was it that we did a couple weeks ago where that happened? It was like really uncomfortable. The guy screaming at his wife in the beginning of the movie.
Now.
What movies we did in the last couple weeks?
Touchstone Pictures presents.
Oh, it was Men in Black. It was the way that Edgar was talking to his wife.
That's right.
Liv Tyler, Ben Affleck.
Oh, that guy is great.
And
Will
Steve
Patton.
Buscemi.
Yeah. Different one than the one I was thinking, but.
Oh, this is so good.
You don't have to worry about me and my team. We'll get the job done.
Take care of my little girl. That's your job now.
I'd be honored for you to marry her. She turned down this role twice.
Wow.
Before she took it.
Really?
She was 20 when
She
they
was
shot this.
exactly.
Oh.
How can you be a 20-year-old turning down this movie?
When you got that Steven Tyler money, it ain't no rush to book of things.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's corny as shit at times, but this movie still made me tear up twice. I gotta be honest.
God damn right it does.
Yeah.
I mean, like we said this, and this isn't my thesis, but I think this is a good segue into the next. Actually, we're gonna do something else before that, but you know, it's my first time doing this show. This movie epitomizes the 90s. Like, it is so 90s in every relationship, the music, the explosions, the graphics, like everything. And I think that alone, like, brings a tear to your eye.
Mommy, that salesman's on TV. You're like, oh, God.
It's not a salesman.
It's not sales.
That's your father.
That's your daddy.
It's your daddy.
Yeah, I just did Lethal Weapon for the Cinephiles this morning, which is an episode coming out, and that is a quintessential 80s action movie. This is a quintessential 90s action movie. Not an action, but necessarily the 90s movie. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely a 90s movie.
When we did Lethal Weapon on our show, we actually found in a lot of ways the movie had aged pretty poorly. We thought that there was like really good comedy, obviously, and all the things that you remember about the relationship were there, but most of the action was pretty bad. The fight scene at the time was great, but it's been almost 30 years, so it's hard for it to stand up. And I found the most entertaining part of the entire movie was the whiteness of Gary Busey's parachute pants and teeth. When he gets out of the car and he's like, Officer Murtaugh, don't be foolish. Look at the hardware.
So toothy.
This is the best.
I don't think so. Yeah.
You're grounded. Riggs is gone.
Did that movie stand up for you?
Yeah.
It
Well,
still
because
does, right?
you guys are kids. Like, I saw it when I was 15, 16 years old, and I saw it to me, or 17 rather, to me, it still holds up because I have memories of it. Like, it's attached to teenager memories, and it's fantastic. And but the sax solo is so funny now. Yeah. Because when I watched it when I was younger, you're like, oh, it's funny to hear that sax. But as you get older, you're like, I know what that sax solo means because I've felt it in my body at times. You know, you feel like you can almost hear that off camera when you're doing something, and you're like, oh God.
Yeah, that's great. So, all right, guys, we're gonna move into the next part of the show, and this is a direct reaction to such a sweet trailer, and the fact that it is so 90s. This is something we don't do as often as we used to. It's called Action Movie Tagline. So when we were kids, we would go to the video store, you know, when there actually were video stores, and the VHS tapes would all be lined up there, and they would have, you know, these little taglines on the back of the box. The classic ones were like, a slam-bang action thriller. Or
a non-stop adrenaline thrill ride.
Yeah, something like that. You know, sometimes they're a little longer, sometimes take some liberties and kind of run on, so we're all going to just kind of share one here. I kind of have a tag paragraph.
Nice. You got 3 pieces of paper there for your tag.
I wrote a book.
Who's going first?
Who wants to go first on this one?
Go ahead, Andrew.
All right, I'll go first here. I always go like semi-serious.
Yeah. Oh.
There you go.
I wear suspenders. What can I say?
I wear suspenders, you know.
Got a law degree.
This is serious shit. All right. It happened before. It can happen again. What would you do if the universe you know turned its back on you? How do you stop the unstoppable? Ben Affleck, Bruce Willis, you won't want to close your eyes. You won't want to miss a thing.
Nice.
Oh.
Armageddon.
That's good. Yeah. It's really good.
Thank you, guys.
You have a really good head start.
I like that.
Rocha, I think yours is going to be better because you work professionally in voiceover.
Stop it.
And also, you guys both did something cohesive, while mine, I probably scribbled this so messily, I'll probably like stumble through my paragraph. But I'm going to try anyway.
I mean, you really sold us on it.
Yeah.
Here you go. Ready?
You built it up. So.
All right. Here's the fucking situation. Michael Bay has an unsolvable situation with no outcome with a statistically high chance of success. In layman terms, it's really fucking bad. From the producers of Dangerous Minds and the director of The Rock, someone thought training drill men to be astronauts was a better idea than astronauts to be drill men. It's the Bible, and Michael Bay calls this day Armageddon.
Nice.
That was pretty good.
Yeah?
You know, you lost me for a little bit, but then you tied it all together, and I loved it.
It's the Bible, and Michael Bay calls this day Armageddon. I was proud of that line.
Kaboom.
Boom.
Bay
All right,
316 says. Yeah.
Now the pro. With
Bring us back
real
around,
voice.
Rocha.
Yeah.
We'll see if mine even remotely holds up. When the world is about to end and you've lost all hope, You'll find your saviors in the unlikeliest places, and they'll usually be Americans. Armageddon, Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck, Liv Tyler, and Billy Bob Thornton. Trust me, you don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah, you guys are great. You both used the song.
So good.
I had to. That was just perfect.
You've got a great voice.
I was just
over
gonna
yours.
say, it's so funny that you and I do this every week, and then he comes on and does it. And I'm like, that's really what it's supposed
You
to
could
sound
just read
like.
the phone book.
Yeah, I would listen to that shit.
Tell my agent. All right.
That's great, man.
Thank you, man.
That's fan-fucking-tastic.
Those are great.
Yeah.
So that was tagline. That's what we like to start with.
Rocha, you brought some people to the chat at
Nice.
the Piers. Yeah,
Good.
people are alive, and I'll try to catch it up here.
I told you, man.
Awesome.
People
This is
love this
exciting.
movie.
Oh, they love it.
I think for Andrew, this episode was probably Gladiator. That was right.
Yeah.
Is that like your favorite
That was my
film?
one.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I think
Gladiator's
that was your
great.
favorite movie of all time.
I mean, that and Warrior, obviously, but that was a special.
Warrior, because
Warrior's the
we
shit,
had the director and the writer in here with us.
Really? Gavin O'Connor?
Yeah, he's a friend of ours.
Nice.
So that was amazing.
That's
But,
awesome, dude.
I think that one was different, but for you it was Gladiator. For me it was Point Break.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I think those are probably, and then The Rock, because it's like collectively our favorite action
Yeah.
movie. But those are kind of the same for us. So we
this
totally
is
relate to you.
Rocha's, yeah.
It's just every minute, I love when you said, and they'll probably be Americans, because I love when they turn, they're like, these 4 astronauts. You're like, 3 white people and a super tan blonde chick with big tits. Awesome. This is Michael Bay.
Right, like, we'll throw in Michael Clarke Duncan, a gigantic black person to offset the white, which doesn't. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's just unbelievable. So that was tagline, guys. We're gonna move on to the next part of the show, and this is something we like to call thesis statement. So what we do is we come up with your sort of water cooler moment you would share at a party. Like, you're at a party and someone's like, blah, blah, Armageddon. You're like, whoa, who said Armageddon? That's my favorite movie ever.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, that movie's pretty good. You're like, well, let me tell you about that movie. And then you just lead the conversation because it's your favorite thing. That's what, thesis statement is. It's your bold thought, kind of rooted in hyperbole almost. So we like to share those. I'm gonna jump in first on this one if you guys don't mind.
Oh, of course.
What I'm gonna say is Michael Bay's 1995 to 1998 run is the most representative 3-movie run by any director of 90s action films, with Armageddon as the crown jewel film representing the entire genre.
So do you have? So the other people that are in that conversation would be like the Bruckheimers and.
Yeah, I mean, so Bruckheimer produced obviously the movies that all these guys did.
I mean,
so
excuse me, the Scott.
Tony Scott, because he did Crimson Tide in 95 and Enemy of the State in 98. So you could say, but I don't think Enemy of the State's on the same level as these movies. You could say Cameron because Terminator 2 and True Lies, but again, those don't feel like 90s action movies. True Lies does more than...
True Lies does, yeah.
But T2 just feels timeless. It feels like it could have been made in 86.
Sure.
And so to me, the 3 movies that Bay makes, Bad Boys 95, The Rock 96, and Armageddon in 98, it's like each movie, he took something that worked and then magnified it. And by the time he got to Armageddon, it's like the biggest budget, so many explosions, all the cliches, just everything he could throw in. Like this movie, even though it's not a traditional
It's like a
action
culmination
movie,
of everything he'd done up to that point.
like The Rock is much more of an action movie. You know, there's guns for a reason as opposed to just like guns on a driller just to have them,
Right.
which I didn't even understand. But like I think like this movie just represents the tone of 90s, like, and Michael Bay is the premier director, and I think this movie is almost just like, it's like the crown jewel of that whole theory that he is the guy. The movies that came in the next decade looked like his movies for a reason.
Yeah.
All the Bay-isms, everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty strong thesis. I think that the only people that were even in the conversation you discussed, and there is no one that feels quite as 90s as Michael Bay in action, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, you can go down the list of all the like really famous 90s movies, but most of the guys you're talking about, they don't, like Emmerich or something like that, where he makes, Independence Day. Stargate's not really the same kind of movie, and he didn't make another one, so it's like Bay just, as much shit as that guy gets, as much crap as he takes as a director, you can't give me many directors that have as much of a stamp on the movie industry as he's made.
And I want to say something to these people who give him crap. You're lying to everyone else around you because you know you like one of his films and you love one of his films.
Yep.
So you can criticize him all you want, but you're that person that's like, oh, I hate Miley Cyrus, and then you have Miley Cyrus on your cardio mix.
Yeah, right.
You're that jerk off. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's true because everybody I've known, no matter what level of film expertise, cinephile, whatever they are, there's always one Michael Bay film that they absolutely love, and there's a reason for that because the man knows how to touch into your primal urges.
I think what's his quote that he said? I make movies for teenage boys.
That's right.
Is that such a problem? Right? Something like that.
Well, the thing is,
Guess who's going to the theater?
Yeah. we are all teenage boys, just in older versions of our body.
Yeah.
Like that's really all it is. So that's why watching these movies is such a fun. It's such a great payoff.
Yeah.
That's why we talk about movies on mic for hours at a time.
Exactly.
What do you guys got for your thesis?
I'll let you go, Rocha.
Okay. So mine's more hyperbole, but it's what I've said to people numerous times. It's the greatest American movie made in the last 40 years. It's a rock-hard American penis bursting out of a pair of American flag Speedos with an American flag sticking out of the tip of its penis. That's what I would describe that movie.
So we're talking 1977 on.
Yeah.
Every movie we've ever covered on the show.
Every movie we've ever covered on the show.
Every movie that's come out in my lifetime.
No, what I said. Greatest American movie. So that means it's about America.
I can give you like 2% of the movies I've watched in my life that aren't American. Like,
I mean that this is America. It's about America.
Like an American
this is
movie.
America. Point Break ain't about America.
Yeah, it's like Move
Enemy
Here.
of the State ain't about America. Gladiator sure as fuck ain't about America.
Right.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Armageddon's
American.
about America.
So it's
Not
like the
American
other
made.
ones,
No,
the other
right.
ones that super stand out.
Right.
Like what are they? There's like Independence Day.
Sure.
That was a big
Oh,
one.
I see what you're saying. Patriotic almost. is what
Yes,
you're looking
that's
at.
what I'm
More
saying.
than American.
That's what this movie's so patriotic.
Yeah, super patriotic.
It's super patriotic. You get a bunch of oil drillers. Let's not get people from any other country. Let's get a bunch of oil drillers, a bunch of roughnecks.
It's about saving the fucking world.
That's right.
American Roughnecks to save the world.
That's why I say it's a rock-hard American penis bursting out of a pair of American flag Speedos with an American flag sticking out of
If
its
anybody
tip.
wants to make that T-shirt and sell it online,
I'll buy one. I will buy one. I want to go through that list real quick. So we got ID. We got Independence Day.
Yeah.
There's Top Gun. That's got to be another one that people talk about as one of the greatest
pretty
American
American.
movies.
It is.
Yeah.
That's on the list.
It's on the list. What else we got?
I mean, ones that are super famous.
Super American.
I mean, like other. That's like offhand. That's hard for me to just come up with a list. But
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't know if I completely agree, but it's definitely in the conversation. It's got to be.
Top three at least.
Top three.
Yes.
Yeah.
we named 3.
We named 3. It's in those 3.
But that's I went more the hyperbole.
I like
route.
it. Yeah,
I
so
totally dig, and we were actually hoping that was going to be your thesis because it's so good. It's so great. Yeah. And the best thing is that if you were doing that at a party, and you just had a little bit to drink in you.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's the best movie ever made.
Yeah. I appreciate Andrew thinking I haven't done that at a party without having too much to drink because I have.
All right. So mine is interesting, and I don't know how much you're going to like this, Rocha, but just bear with me.
Please.
The best thing to ever happen to Armageddon was Titanic.
Okay.
Let's let that set in for a minute. Why?
Now, Andrew, why would you say that?
So,
why?
Originally, now, first of all, I think that Armageddon is a romance masquerading as an action movie.
Absolutely.
Which is what ties directly into my thesis. I think that that's the strongest part of the film. In the original copy of the script, there was no relationship between Affleck and Tyler at all. It focused, all the time that they spent on their relationship was spent on Billy Bob's backstory. That was the original script.
Huh.
Wow.
After Titanic came out, they realized how much money it made and how many teenagers were going to watch this movie, especially girls that came out to see Titanic, and they wanted to bring them into Armageddon, so they wrote this love story.
So they added the 4th and 5th writers to the movie.
Exactly. They added the 4th and 5th writers to the movie to do rewrites, and then this movie made $500 million and is considered one of the most iconic movies of all time.
Damn right.
Yeah, definitely. The highest grossing film of 1998.
Yeah.
Massive.
Absolutely. I mean,
why are people bashing it? Highest grossing film of 1998. Kiss my ass.
And just to let you guys know, another movie that came out in 1998 that was also pretty American was Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
That was beaten out by about $100 million worldwide by this movie. So that is my thesis.
It's better than Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So we because we've ripped a lot. We're gonna save. I love that. Fist pump moment. I think we're gonna come back to it. Okay. Just mentioning what you were just talking about here when the movie came out. Yeah. I think I want to get into career profiles. Sure. I want to get into Willis and Affleck because I think this is really interesting.
Yeah.
So talking about this movie making as much money as it did, it's got 12 people in it whose names I could like offhandedly recite while watching. Like 12 or 13. It's a huge 90s cast.
Yeah.
I mean, beyond just
and before they became famous. Right before they made super famous.
Yeah. I mean, even just like you have the main stars, right? You have the big 3 that are on the cover, but then you also have Billy Bob, you have Jason Isaacs, who was in The Patriot, I think the same year.
Yeah.
You've got Keith David, you've got William Fichtner, you've got Owen Wilson, you've got Michael Clarke Duncan, you've got Steve Buscemi. Who else are we forgetting? You've got the Russian guy who I can't...
Peter Stormare.
Yeah, Peter Stormare. He's amazing. Which, by the way, I am reading the chat as much as I can. I'm not going to talk as much today because we've got a guest, but numerous people have said that the Russian astronaut or Peter Stormare is the best part of this film, which I think is so cool.
Yeah, so it's insane. It's like a dozen names you could throw out there. Just if I forgot one, forgive me. But if you look at these two guys that headline the film, this is the part that I found the craziest. So Willis his story is well told at this point, right?
Yep.
95, he makes the third Die Hard movie. He's on top of the world. He's in Pulp Fiction in 94. He's one of the guys, the few movie stars in the 90s who could truly top line anything. He was that guy. And you look at kind of the two movies that he made after Fifth Element before this came out, Mercury Rising and The Jackal, and it's a reminder to you a little bit of how
those movies, really.
It's a reminder to you a little bit of how like he wasn't, the kind of actor that like DiCaprio is now.
Yeah.
He was the everyman action hero who just people really liked.
But in the 90s, that was the guy to be.
Yeah.
There weren't many people like the DiCaprios of the world and like the Daniel Day-Lewis of the world. Yeah. There were these guys that to be on top of the world was like to be Nick Cage, to be Bruce Willis, just to be an action star.
Big time. So Willis is the top line on this movie. Now you go to the other side, and Affleck it's crazy that Affleck's the other guy on the cover because Good Will Hunting had come out the year before. I mean, and prior to Good Will Hunting, Phantoms and Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
I mean, Phantoms was the same year, and Chasing Amy's 97. Prior to that, if you look, it's all like Dazed and Confused, School Days. Like he's he's got
was
like
still in school.
Small part in Mallrats. He's 25 when they make this movie, and it's unreal to see the guy so young. I told Andrew yesterday, my thesis might be that Ben Affleck in 1995 might be the most, or 1998 might be the handsome guy of the 90s.
He really is.
He's preposterously good looking. Yeah. Like, he looks like he should just have not been an actor, just been a model. He's so pretty. It's ridiculous.
And it's so crazy that it just goes to show the character behind Ben Affleck and how talented he really is because, like, how many guys in the 90s did we see that were that guy? Josh Hartnett is one of the best examples.
Yeah.
You look at the guy, he's not a very talented actor. He's a cool guy, and I like him, but Ben Affleck could have just become another one of him. Instead, he's come to where he is now, which is just amazing to me.
He had to go through the dark ages and come back out on the other end.
Who knows if Jennifer Lopez might have been the best thing that ever happened to his career.
Yeah.
Because if he wasn't saturated in that, he might have just been busy making shit films.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So it's crazy.
Geely still happened.
And Jersey Girl.
It's crazy to see that he's the second star in the highest-grossing film of 1998 with basically no credits prior to this movie. He won an Oscar for writing and had a small part in Good Will Hunting. I mean, relatively small part compared to Matt Damon.
And this was like a turning point in Willis's career as well, because like what you're talking about, he wasn't really like everyone loved Willis, but he wasn't like respected as a great actor. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying, as like an action star. Yeah. So he was working on a film when this movie was coming out, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but he wanted to get out of it. And in order to do that, Disney was going to absorb the damage of that film flopping, and he would have to do 3 films for them essentially, and that was Armageddon.
Yep.
Unbreakable. Yep. And The Sixth Sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Which are all great films.
Which are all incredible films, and that's like kind of the turn in his career, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think you would probably say. We don't have time for it today to play career-defining role. I mean, McClane's his career-defining role. Sixth Sense is his career-defining movie at this point, I think.
I would agree with that.
And I think that kind of, I don't even know if there's so much of a conversation, but I think that is crazy that you have Billy Bob, who probably has as much screen time as Affleck in this movie, honestly.
Yeah.
But Affleck's the second star because he's the heartthrob.
Right.
I can't believe he was already such a star that they would bill him as the second guy in this.
But isn't this Miramax, right? Isn't this Miramax?
Touchstone.
Touchstone Pictures. So they have their deals with Bruckheimer and what have you. So, but Harvey at this point is a player, and Harvey at this point is pushing his people into certain spots, into certain films, because when they come back and do his films, there's more notoriety. So I think people, not a lot of people talk about Harvey's machinations in the 90s. Like, he made a lot of moves to put his people into certain spots to get more worldwide fame. Ben stepped through. Ben was at the perfect time, perfect age, coming off Good Will Hunting. He wasn't going to push Willis, and Willis probably accepted this because he was not going to be like overshadowed. And Willis is an A-list action star at this point.
Yep.
And he's like, if you're going to cast, great, cast a kid that I can push around. And basically, it's what he does the whole film.
Yeah.
And Affleck takes it until that last moment, right?
Right.
And so you have that situation. And so to me, it's the logical casting to put him in here, and you give him a shot to show what he can do.
Yeah.
And and he does succeed and he fails at the same time. There are some moments where you're like, "Ugh," but there are other great moments where he's like really spot on, But you see the beginning of an actor in this film.
Yeah, that's so true, and I guess that goes to show. I mean, like what I was just talking about, and Ben took it and ran with it. You look at Sam Worthington in the mid 2000s, he had the exact same opportunity, and he took it and ran with it, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is he now?
Yeah, exactly. Well, Billy
Yeah.
Bob, same thing, coming off a Sling Blade. This same thing. Like they're moving him into spots where he's going to get more notoriety.
Yeah.
And he was perfect in this part. He's perfect in this part, and he lost all that weight, and he was like a different person because he's not the same guy in Tombstone. That's a whole other person.
Yeah.
You know. But what we don't know, and is stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Conversations. People meet each other. People get to know each other. People read each other's stuff, and there's a feeling like I want to work with that guy. So those are those things that happen in Hollywood parties that we're not privy to.
Yeah.
And so when they show up in these movies, you're like, how does this happen? That's how it happened. You know, conversations between people.
Totally.
Yeah, 100%.
Before we move into the entire making of this movie and the production development, writers and everything, let's cover fist pump moment before we move on, because we normally touch on it, and it's usually the favorite part of the show. So guys, fist pump moment is that moment you're watching the movie, something happens, and you just gotta have that fucking awesome, this is so sweet, I get to watch the rest of this movie right now. You want to call your buddy and get him on the phone and be like, dude, turn it on to 32 minutes in. It's I know you've seen it. You got to do it again for me right now.
I don't care if you're at your grandmother's funeral. Go!
And, you know, it could be anything. It could be the voiceover at the beginning. It could be the title music. It could be a touching look between father and son. The credits. Anything at all. This movie's chock full of fist pump moments.
Yeah.
This movie, like we say about some of the best ones, it feels like one giant fist pump moment in a lot of ways. So, Rocha, this is your favorite movie of all time.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, right below Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
But my fist pump moment is the entire ending sequence on the Russian space station. Like when they're going to get gas and everything starts to fall apart because Lev was terrible at telling him what to do with the stuff down there, and then everything starts to catch on fire, and just when that last piece of the space station falls off and starts going down to that connecting part, I think so, and then they both the shuttles fly out in an X pattern behind an exploding space station.
Yeah.
A, both of those shuttles would have been consumed and destroyed, but B, it's just badass, especially as a Star Wars fan, a Star Trek fan, to see something like that coming. And when that moment happens every time, I'm like, fuck yes.
Fucking sweet.
Yeah.
I just got pumped here.
Yeah. Like, I'm on board for the rest of the time now. I love it. I love it.
It's great.
Michael Bay does have that just amazing talent of like building to those crescendos.
Yeah.
Because everything happens so fast.
Yeah.
There's no bullshit. Everything happens so fast, and things are believably happening so fast. Because what is our knowledge of what a space station would be like? And then the cold and all that happens right at the it's just perfect timing.
Dun, 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 dun.
Exactly. We gotta go.
So for me, my thesis statement for a lot of movies is that in order to have a great action movie, you have to have a great villain. And that, I think, is part of why this isn't like my favorite movie of all time, or like, you know, but I will say that the villain qualifier in this movie, which is that moment when you sit there and you're like, he's killed more people than the plague, you know, like things like that. And I'm going to save the actual line because it's my favorite line as well. But when Billy Bob is sitting there trying to explain to them the magnitude of this meteor and what it will do, and I'll just say at the beginning, he's like, what kind of damage are we talking about here? He's like, damage?
Yeah.
Sir? Total, sir.
Total.
Yeah,
sir.
Total, sir. Like, so that was my fist pump. That whole speech that he gives.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you know, all the talking heads.
Yeah, right.
You know, military regalia in a room.
Yeah.
Which is so Michael Bay. So, and that happens, what, like 10, 15 minutes in the movie?
Oh yeah, dickhead talking heads with medals in like a control room. That's not only a staple of Bay, it's just a staple of the 90s.
Yeah, that's true.
This is a huge problem, and this is not fixable.
Yeah.
I can fix it. Like that type of thing. So I was just so on board. I hadn't seen the movie in 15 years. I was like, yes, here we go.
And it's either always like, Mr. President, the phone for you, or the president's on the line.
Exactly.
It's one or the other. You always see one side of the conversation.
That's right.
It's like a red phone.
Yeah, always a red phone.
It's always some
Blinking
guy.
light.
Let's not forget, the president flew more missions under my command in Vietnam than any other soldier. He knows how to fight. All right, so anyway, my fist bump moment, I'm going to go ahead and say, is it's got to be the president's speech. Because we talked about this a second ago,
speech, man.
and this will lead us into our next bit that we'll tease. But each of the movies that he did in this run, Michael Bay, he has like the dramatic speech.
Yeah.
And if you actually look at the year that this came out, so The Rock came out the same year as Independence Day, but then this came out 2 years later. So I have a feeling, because there's the great speech in The Rock when he's like, "This is the hardest decision I've ever had to make.
Yeah.
How do you weigh the lives of 81 people?" And on the other side, that one. And then in this movie, the president's like, "I come to you today not as the president, but as a citizen of humanity.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, at the same time, you have cuts to like children running in slow motion holding flags,
Like going down to the bomb
sunsets,
shelters.
incredibly stereotypical like racial profiling of any culture that's not American.
Yeah.
People praying, Asian people not speaking like any English, like
right.
just like tons and tons and tons of things that are just not okay or PC.
I like that it's translated in Inuit when you see them
Yeah.
all in their hut, you know, they're listening on the radio. I'm like,
You're
what?
just like, God damn it,
It's
man.
so good.
But my favorite thing is that his next movie he makes is fucking Pearl Harbor, and in Pearl Harbor he's like, we don't even have to write this speech.
I
It's
know
written
what
for us.
speech I'm gonna give.
December 7th, 1941. He's like, well, we can't use the same president a third time, so let's make it John Boyd.
Yeah, because it was the same in the rocket. Yeah, so good.
So that's got to be my fist pump. It's just watching that speech. You're like, oh my god, shit's about to get really heavy.
Yep, the president's coming to us for help.
Yeah.
It's so great because it's also super fucking inspirational. Like when he's speaking in
Yeah.
slow mo, like you said. But there's also the shot of them and the close-ups of like them listening to the president's speech and how it's affecting them and
Yeah.
going in slow motion, and all of it is just so there.
That
man.
is one of my favorite things in 90s movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are moving speeches from presidents. Oh, yeah. Independence Day. It's so good.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh yeah, and Morgan Freeman in Deep Impact.
Oh,
yeah, he does a
absolutely.
great job
He's
with that
fantastic.
speech. Yeah.
Which
The redheaded stepchild of this conversation.
Yes.
Exactly.
Unfortunately for that
Exactly.
movie.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's continue to move into production development. Now, there's a lot to cover here because there was so many big people involved. So I think we're going to just kind of bullet point these people.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think the smartest thing to do here is if something jumps out, cut me off. But I think let's just kind of jump through it because there's 5 writers credited.
And we've covered Gilroy and Abrams before.
Yeah, so the most important guy, the 2 guys really, the writers that you probably haven't heard us talk as much about. Jonathan Hensley, who, Drew, if you want to take this, just because I know you have a very special place in your heart for Jonathan Hensley, because he wrote The Punisher.
All right, so that was my moment. You just took it from me. All right, so Jonathan Hensley started with a law career, and he ended up walking away from that and started writing episodes of The Young Indiana Jones in '92.
Nice.
Between '95 and 2004, he worked as a prolific action adventure writer in Hollywood, and he wrote the 2 highest-grossing films, number 1 and number 2 of '95 and '98, which was Armageddon and The Rock and Con Air in '95. Correct?
No, it was the number 2, Die Hard 3. You're talking about he wrote in for '95.
Oh, I was like that was okay.
'98. Yeah, he wrote Armageddon. So yeah, he had the '95 and '98 highest-grossing films were both written by him.
And then he also wrote Jumanji,
Yeah,
which is one of my
sweet.
I actually watched that again
Yeah.
the other day for the first time in a couple of years. It completely holds up.
Yep.
And then he directed The Punisher, which I think might have been a misstep for him because he's not a bad writer. And I love that film, so I'm definitely in the minority. But
Yeah.
After that, he wasn't really given a lot more work. But he's married to Gail Ann Hurd, so he's doing okay for himself.
she's a great
which
producer,
is one
right?
of the greatest producers of all
Yep.
time.
So exactly. So she's one of the producers, and just because we won't have to cover it when we get there, Gail and her, the real story on Gail is that she was married to James Cameron in the 80s. She met James Cameron before he was James Cameron. She worked on Aliens. She worked on Terminator, Terminator 2. She nowadays has actually transitioned very effectively. She did a ton of movies. This one included. She produces The Walking Dead and
Yes.
Fear the Walking
Yeah,
Dead.
TV.
And so she's still massively famous. I interviewed her last year,
Oh, nice.
just briefly, and she was such a sweetheart and so much fun to talk to. And I've heard all the stories I've heard is she's just even now. I mean, she's an older woman. She's tough as nails, and she's just like so focused. So
Well, it's like you figure someone that like has chosen their career to work on that quality of film and TV, you're just like, you've got to just be a badass,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like hands down, cold-blooded.
yeah, total
Especially
badass.
to stay in this business as a woman.
Oh my
to be
God,
as successful
absolutely.
as she is, you got to have that steel. Yeah.
Yeah, and we always talk about writers and directors because we do movies from the 80s, 90s,
Yeah.
2000s that just, they don't go past a certain decade.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was their moment to shine.
I think also like when we've talked about this a lot before, but Cameron is just historically such a just rigid, stubborn, opinionated artist that I think if you're a woman who was able to marry that guy,
Yeah.
you're usually pretty strong. Like I don't think it's very possible to be a like submissive, weak woman and marry James Cameron.
No,
I think that's
look
impossible.
at the list of the women he's married.
Yeah,
It's
Catherine
Linda
fucking
Hamilton,
Bigelow.
yeah.
Badasses, all of them. So anyway, moving on from Jonathan Hensley, you got J.J. Abrams, who, again, we've talked a lot about J.J. Abrams. I think the craziest thing about him, I mean, he came up as a writer, producer, composer, script doctor. He's one of the writers on this movie, did rewrites. And but it's the later half of his career he's turned into... Like, if you look at the stuff of the last 5 years, it's
that JJ's
infinite.
done?
I mean, it was already so impressive, but it's infinitely more impressive now. You know, he directed Mission Impossible 3, which you can look at as the transition point. which he then produces Mission Impossible 4, 5, soon to be 6, was a producer on Westworld, directed Star Wars The Force Awakens, is going to be executive producer on Star Wars 8. I mean, the guy is, right now, at this moment, who directed Star Trek, untouchable. Like,
there's very few. I mean, he's literally James Cameron in the 90s right now.
Yeah. Who's as big as J.J. Abrams right now, as far as the name goes?
No
As a
one, because
director?
he's crossing so many mediums.
Exactly.
That's the thing that really reinforces, and the number of franchises that people are willing to put in his hands.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about like Inarritu as like a great director, but it's not the same conversation at all.
If you look at Abrams, you're like, well, you're like, okay, so, you know, Star Wars, like, that's the feather in his cap. You're like, that's the big thing. And then you're like, oh, wow, Westworld was like the highest reviewed show of the year, and he was EP on that. I didn't realize that. And you're like, oh, and he's getting to be EP on Star Wars 8, even though Disney's just going to let him be the EP on that movie. Great, okay. Like, crazy. The guy is untouchable right now. So
Spielberg is his only comparison, in my opinion, at this point. Because Spielberg has done so many different types of me, including TV and television, TV and film and what have you,
Yeah, and the age difference there is that's the clear distinction. He's Spielberg in his prime.
Right.
So moving on to Tony Gilroy, one of our favorites on the show.
Love Tony Gilroy.
We're big fans of Tony Gilroy. Drew, you were just telling me a story. You were in a Clash of Clans conversation you were having.
I love playing Clash of Clans. It's one of the few vices I have in my life. But Ben and I always have this conversation where, like, when people talk to us about movies, it's not really a conversation anymore. It's kind of like us just vomiting fact on them until they like sway to what we're talking about. So the other day, someone was asking about Jason Bourne and if what people thought of it and they should see it. And someone said, "Oh, I thought it was really good," and I responded saying, "I didn't think it was that good. I think it really suffered because they got rid of Tony Gilroy, who wrote the first 4 or was a part of the first 4, and he's got this incredible way." Like this concise, tight writing that moves the story forward. And I was like, so what I said to them was like, really, I thought that it suffered due to the writing. They actually got rid of one of the writers. You should look up Tony Gilroy. And so like a couple minutes later, the guy's like, oh wow, I had no idea that he did that. I was like, yeah, Paul Greengrass took over the writing and he hired a yes man to basically be a support writer. So that's why, and they were like, oh my God, I had no idea. I'd never even heard of all these people. And I was like, yeah. So
they're like, who are you? You're like, this is Matt Damon.
Yeah, exactly. I'm Tony Gilroy. But yeah, so anyway, Tony Gilroy, he's just got this incredible way of writing, and I'll let you cover him because I know you love him.
Yeah, Gilroy is another guy who's kind of a script doctor. You can see Devil's Advocate, Bourne Identity, Armageddon. For me, the thing that makes Tony Gilroy what he is to me is Michael Clayton. Michael Clayton's one of my 20 favorite movies ever made.
Wow.
It's a movie that I've probably seen 8-9 times, and it's never gotten anything. It's never aged for me. The writing is perfect. It's so well acted. The pacing in that movie is incredible. When you talk about like movies about corporate espionage, it's about as good as it gets. And it's just one of those examples where like somebody and their style just hits his stride in exactly the right way. Like all the things about the Bourne movies, you could like sort of be like, well, they're awesome, but they're kind of a little bit silly action movies. And everything about like, what was the movie that he made with Giamatti, Wilkinson, Clive Owen, and Julia Roberts? Was that Duplicity? Was that what it was called?
Duplicity. Yep.
Duplicity, or like any of the stuff that he's worked on later. Obviously, directing, I think, the 4th Bourne movie, which is just okay. All that stuff just kind of gets swept away when you look at this one movie, Michael Clayton. And so I always see that, and I'm like, that's the best example of what this guy's capable of. And look, Armageddon's a silly script, but it doesn't change the fact you have literal legends working on it.
Absolutely. And I'm going to move right on to Shane Salerno, who is
It's not a silly script.
What?
It's not a silly script, man. It's not a silly script.
It's not a silly script.
There's some real stuff happening going on in between the lines.
I'm leaving the show.
The subcontext.
I thought we were talking about we love the movie.
So Shane Salerno is someone that if you haven't heard of him, you will hear of him soon. When he was a high school senior, he wrote and produced and directed a documentary called Sundown, The Future of Children and Drugs. This appeared on Larry King Live, and it was honored by the United States Congress. So he immediately, that was like, I'm doing what I should be doing with life, right? So he started working with novelist Don Winslow, and he created the TV series UC Undercover, which he was an executive producer, writer, and music supervisor. He went on to work on Hawaii Five-0. Anyway, that's all whatever. Who cares about all that? That was so long ago. Now what he's doing is he's working on the next 5 installments of Avatar. Wow. James Cameron, if you go, it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
He's doing 6
credited
movies?
on all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's also worked with Michael Mann, Steven Spielberg, and he most recently started writing, producing, and directing. He did the movie Salinger, the documentary, and he also followed that up with a book that was a New York Times bestseller. But the big thing for him is that he is going to be writing the next 6 Avatar films. So James Cameron clearly thinks that this guy knows his shit.
He's like 44, I think, is what I was looking, which is pretty impressive that a guy who, like, to be in that position, I mean, that kind of experience already, I was reading a little bit about him, and he was just sort of referencing the guys that he's worked with, and he's like, yeah, my time on I think it was NYPD Blue or whatever the cop show that he worked on. He was just like, that taught me this, and he's like, my time with Michael Mann, I think of him as a great teacher, and right. He's just referencing all these huge legends. This guy,
he worked with Michael Mann on The Border. He worked with William Friedkin, the Night Train. He worked with Ron Howard on The Bay of Pigs. The dude's just done it.
Yeah. What do you guys think? So, Friedkin, what do you guys think about him? Like
William Friedkin?
Yeah, I mean, at this point
as
in his
a director.
career. Yeah.
Well, what can you say? His heyday was in the 70s. That's all you really can say. I mean, they'll still give him occasional chances, but I think this happens sometimes. Directors they have their shot when they're young, and then they just can't make the transfer. They just can't make it.
Literally what we were just talking about.
You just get older. You just get older. You get softer. You're not as edgy. You're not as in touch with that stuff, and you live your life. I'm like, he's married to the woman who was Sherry Lansing. So Friedkin, what was the rush? Like he didn't have that.
Right.
He might not have had that extra drive after he'd done Exorcist and after he'd done French Connection. After he'd done those films, there's not that drive maybe to keep. Sometimes you just hit your wall and you can't do it anymore.
It's like Exorcist and then
Walter
French
Hill.
Connection.
Walter Hill's the same way. Walter Hill, great movies from the 80s, can't do crap. Now, The Warriors, 48 Hours, he had great films, and then he can't. Last Man Standing was that Bruce Willis one was kind of crappy, and that's when everything started falling apart.
Willis and Walken.
Yeah.
How good is Live and Die in L.A. I think is like 86.
That's
maybe?
Michael Mann. Yeah, that's great.
No, To Live and Die in L.A. That's Friedkin.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was thinking. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was thinking Manhunter. My bad.
Yeah, and that's a good movie.
Yeah.
But I was trying to think of did Friedkin make a movie after To Live and Die in L.A. that was even good, like in the 90s? Is there one I'm forgetting?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Okay, we can.
Like my phone's
we can talk about it. But it's just one of those names who still gets. It's like if you have a guy and he's like, my time with Michael Mann. Well, I'm like, he's still making movies. He's still relevant.
Yeah.
He's like, my time with Spielberg. I'm like, legend. It's like my time with Friedkin. I'm like, you're 44. What time could you have spent with Friedkin?
Right.
That's kind of what I was trying to think. Was he still even doing things that were relevant at the time this guy was coming up?
The dude started when he was in high school.
Yeah, I guess it's true.
Right when 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Bay here because that is really
what it's all about.
the centerpiece of this
what it's all
glory,
about.
This gem.
Friedkin did Blue Chips.
Blue Chips.
And Jade and Rules of Engagement.
Oh, yeah, Jade.
David
and
Caruso.
Jade.
Yeah.
The Hunted?
The Hunted.
Oh, I love The Hunted.
So, yeah, he directed that.
Tommy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he did Killer Joe, which
that
was kind of not bad.
I haven't seen it, but I heard it was really good. Yeah, interesting.
So he's showed up in occasional places, but they're not the
Those
greatest
are such
stuff.
interesting films for him to have worked on to show that he could still do something.
Killer Joe is kind of recent.
It's Killer Joe's McConaughey, not. It's the one with him and Catherine Keener and Juno Temple, and it's a weird little film.
Yeah, I heard it was pretty good.
Yeah.
So Michael Bay, we've all said a lot about the guy. His visual style is the thing that I think he's probably the most known for.
Yeah.
I think the most interesting thing about Bay is everybody knows between 95 and 05 what his career was like because he came out. He did Bad Boys, he did The Rock, Armageddon, Pearl Harbor, then he did Bad Boys 2, right? The Island.
The Island, Transformers.
And then if you
most
look,
people, that's their response.
Andrew, what are you talking about?
Yeah, man.
How can you like The Island and you haven't seen Armageddon in 15 years? I don't understand.
I do like The Island. But if you go past The Island and you look at everything that he made from 2006 to this year, which there'll be another Transformers coming out this year.
So there's 6 of those, right?
7. If you include this year's this year's Transformers,
Okay.
the one that's coming out this summer, I guess, the last night.
Yeah.
He'll have made 7 movies, 5 of which have been Transformers movies.
Yes.
So he's basically just been in Transformers land this whole time.
What were the other 2?
He made 13
Benghazi,
Hours last year.
And Pain and Gain.
And he made Pain and Gain.
Which was,
That's the one that
both
I
those
find.
films are good.
That's the one I find the most
be so much better.
interesting. 13 Hours I watched last week.
I like 13 Hours.
It's good. It's not
I haven't watched it.
great. It doesn't have the things that I think. When I watched that movie, I literally thought to myself, "You want this to be Lone Survivor, and it's not."
Yeah, that's a good point.
You want this to be Lone Survivor, and it's the same way when I watched Pain and Gain. I was like, this same cast could have worked for me.
Oh, absolutely.
If it was done by a director that I felt like understood how to do the material properly.
I completely agree with that film.
It just that movie didn't ring true with me. It was everything about it was like, I don't really understand what I'm watching. It's like it's like this incredibly stylized black comedy that there's so many directors. What if Danny Boyle had done that movie? What if somebody who read that script and was like, this is some twisted shit.
If you even want to talk about someone that could have done a great job with that movie that you don't even like, Fuqua could have done a way better job with that movie than Bay did.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah, exactly. Possibly. We don't really know.
Yeah. I wouldn't go as far as to call the movie bad, but I wouldn't call it good because I feel like that was the consensus is people were like, I really don't know how to feel about this movie. It's so twisted that I have a hard time laughing when the jokes happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, The Rock was a great casting choice.
Yeah.
Wahlberg's a great
They were all
casting
good.
choice.
Yeah, they're all good.
Yeah,
Tony
Anthony
Shalhoub.
Mackie.
Yeah, Tony Shalhoub. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the cast, and it's a good story. So I think the last 10 years of Bay, it's like such a strange career to decide to just commit fully to Transformers. Like,
I mean, the money.
It's the money, man.
the money.
The last one made $1.5 billion.
I know, but
It's the highest grossing one.
do you think that he's still entertained by making Transformers movies?
I don't think so.
I think he's still
5 deep.
challenged.
Yeah,
I think he's still
challenged,
challenged.
I mean, at that point, it's like, how do you find something new? In the last one, there was a goddamn robot dinosaur being rid by Optimus Prime. You know, like, where do you go from there?
Yeah, well, we're gonna see.
Yeah, we're gonna see. We're
With
gonna
the
go
last
back into
night.
Camelot. That's where we go.
I think there's
Nazis.
like, I think there's like 3 more in the works still.
Probably.
Yeah, and they'll just keep making them.
Everyone knows I'm legendary for liking the Transformers movies. So
I like
like
it too.
I don't like the second one, but
I like 1 and 3 a lot.
1, 3, and 4 I like. And 4 is like if you just get drunk enough or high enough.
Which one's 4 again?
4 is the one where they go to China and stuff, and he's riding the dinosaur.
yeah,
That's
that
all
one's
4.
sweet.
And you're
Yeah.
dropping all. So you just if you turn your brain off and just enjoy those films, they are enjoyable.
I
If you-
didn't watch
yeah.
4. I saw one. I saw 1, which I fucking love.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
love
honestly,
1.
the original
Yeah.
Transformers is one of the best action movies that came out in the 2000s.
Yeah, it's great. It's got all the things, like, it's why Shia LaBeouf was a star. He's so good in it. Megan Fox is so hot, and she's
Yeah.
like such a great girl next door
Yeah.
character in it. I mean, Optimus Prime is
I live
awesome.
next to that girl.
There's just, that movie is just great. One of the best Goo Goo Dolls songs ever is from
Yes,
that movie. It's a great
yes.
song. And then I saw the second one, I remember, at a midnight screening,
Yeah.
and I was very let down. It was not good.
Well, okay, so let's ride that, because I think that Transformers is like Michael Bay at his best. It's like all of the things that
Yeah.
he does the most that work perfectly together. So let's get into our top Bay-isms.
Okay, so top Bay-isms. I was going to say top 5, but there's more than 5.
There's so many.
So Bay-isms, things that show up in like every Bay movie, and I honestly would say when I'm talking about this period of his career, because I think the Transformers movies are so specific, I don't think they show up as much in the later movies. I think it's harder to identify them because it's such one kind of movie. And Pain and Gain doesn't feel like a Bay movie in the way that the old stuff does.
No, not at all.
So literally, Bad Boys through Transformers, 95 to 2007 is where you see these.
Or even Transformers 2, actually.
Really?
Because Transformers 2 is riddled with Bay-isms.
Okay.
Especially some of the ones we don't like.
So let's go with some Bay-isms. Oh, yeah, the racist robots?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Let's start with incredibly
defend that
racist
one.
characters.
Incredibly racist characters. We're not going to dwell on that. But then let's, on the other side of that, like Rocha, you said before
Yeah.
the show, the orange lighting.
Yeah.
But Bay has this incredible thing with color and lighting, and you'll see it in Transformers where things are so beautiful and mesmerizing to look at.
Incredibly bright colors. Yeah.
I remember in
incredibly.
Transformers 2, there's that scene where they go to like the sorority house, and the blonde chick who turns out to be a robot.
Oh, yeah.
And like the inside of the house is like frat parties aren't lit like this. Like this place looks like a goddamn incredible like Hollywood rave party with like
birthday.
beautiful lighting, and you know what I mean, and like these platforms. I'm like, this is supposed to be like a sorority house.
Yeah.
I was like, God, the lighting is just unbelievable. Everybody looks like a movie star in here.
I'm surprised you didn't talk about Sorority House. What about hot chicks dancing around in near nothing?
That's what I have. Yep.
When Michael Bay cast Transformers, he just had women come to his house and wash his cars.
That's how Megan Fox got cast.
Exactly.
That's the legend.
She washed the car. He was like, her.
Yep.
Done.
Yep.
All right, what else we got, boys?
Unbelievable.
And you have it in Armageddon, of course, because in the strip club scene.
Yep.
And then you have it in the first Transformers when the Transformer is going over that one girl who's screaming and her dress is flying up. And
You're like,
it's
that is the
always
hottest-
there.
Yep.
And Megan Fox is just really
Well, of course,
just
yes.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
True.
Isn't there a line when John Turturro says something like "high school girls are hot"?
Yeah. No, he goes, criminals are hot.
That's what it is.
Yeah, criminals are hot. I can't say high school girls are hot. Oh, what about the slow motion 360
yes.
pan around?
Yeah,
Always.
I would almost say that's the most distinctive Bay.
Yes.
The 360 that shows up in Armageddon. It shows up in The Rock. I mean, The Rock's most
Bad
famous
Boys.
shot. Yeah, the Bad Boys,
Yep.
big time Bad Boys
Yep.
too. The Rock's most famous shot is the wraparound 360 of Nick Cage with the flares.
Oh, but
I see
then-
green smoke. Yeah.
But then it has the jets fly over
Yeah.
top,
Yeah.
which is another Bay-ism.
jets,
of
yeah.
them using jets to fly over scenes.
That's why I consider Con Air a Michael Bay film. I don't care that
too.
Simon
I know.
West directed
We
it.
100%.
It's so many Bayisms in that movie.
Simon Pope, right?
Yeah, Simon West.
Simon West,
It's
yeah.
like, dude, you are.
Simon Pope, fan of the show. Big shout out.
Yeah, right. Simon Pope, my boy. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Con
Yeah.
Air Stormare is the official Michael Bay, not Michael Bay movie.
Right.
Yeah, the jets flying over, and then the slam bang action thriller music.
Yeah, the rock
all of
like
it.
driving music.
We've told the story before, but like our buddy knew the editor on The Rock, and he told us a story once that would I guess the guy was like, look, when I was starting the movie, Michael was like, look, I need this movie to jump off the screen from the opening frame. I need the credits to be exciting, you know. And like when that movie starts, it's like the music is so intense,
Yes.
and it's as the credits are happening, you hear Ed Harris's voice, and he's like, I come to you today to talk about a grave injustice.
You're like, I'm in.
You're like, I'm so into this movie.
All right, so the last couple, we got the generic white president giving a speech.
Oh yeah,
That's a big one.
With slow motion children running in the background
Yeah,
of
you
the
got
speech.
that.
There's always slow motion. Yeah.
What's this? Guts checking with tie. Oh, the talking suits with medals and all
yeah.
that. That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
huge one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big time.
And then the one that I brought up before the show, I want to know like what you guys think of this, what the fans think of this. Does Michael Bay always use dual heroes?
That's a great point.
You got
Yeah.
Sean Connery and Cage.
Yep.
You got Shia and Megan.
Yep.
You got Will and Martin.
You could even say Shy and Optimus.
and Shia and Optimus or
Yeah.
Shia and
Yeah.
Bumblebee. And then in this
Yep.
one, you've got clearly
Yeah,
Ben
Willis and
Bruce.
Affleck.
Yeah.
Yeah, 13 Hours he doesn't, but that's kind of like, that's not really a Bay movie.
Yeah, that's later on too.
It doesn't really like, it feels a little like a Bay movie, but he's managed to get rid of, I think, a lot of his Bay-isms in that movie.
Well, you have those two guys. You have Krasinski and the other dude,
Yeah.
who's the villain in a number of films.
Iron Man 3.
Yeah, those guys do play off each other. And in Pain Again, you have The Rock and Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
And in Pearl Harbor, you have Josh Hart and Ben
And
Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
So yeah, I think this is a valid theory of him
Rocha,
splitting.
I need to know.
Yes.
Do you love Pearl Harbor?
No, I hate it to pieces.
Really?
It's a piece of dog shit.
I-
No, here's what I'll tell you. Here's what I'll tell you. The actual Pearl Harbor attack
Yeah.
is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen on film,
Yeah.
bar none.
Yeah.
Bar none. The missile shot,
Yeah.
everything. You relive that battle as close as you'll ever to do it,
Yeah.
because you're never going to be able to actually
Right.
be there unless you go on timeless and you somehow get in the plot line. But
Right.
it's such a fantastic. But everything before it and after it is so incredibly stupid and a waste of time. Because we just almost got blown up by the Japanese, and we're worried about this love triangle. Who gives a fuck? We lived. Who
Yeah.
cares that you slept with my girl? What? I don't care. The fact that the Japanese almost destroyed our entire country and took us over and almost killed. That's way more important than if you slept with my friend or
Yeah.
not. Like, I don't care. And so-
Respectfully, I disagree with you.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
No, I'm just kidding. I love the movie. I used to have the Criterion collection, like 4-hour extended DVD
Oh
set.
my God.
With 4 discs.
Pearl Harbor?
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
I love the whole action sequence.
So bad.
And I love
Even Baldwin's bad. Go ahead, yeah.
I love Baldwin, and I love the whole ending sequence.
I love Baldwin.
Yeah, I love that movie personally. It's not good.
You guys are
but I
gonna
love
fly. You're gonna fly.
it. Yeah, it's great.
All right.
It's
And
great.
that film stars a lot of people just before they blew up. Garner, Jamie King, all these incredible.
Beckinsale, right?
Yeah, Kate Beckinsale as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
all
she
those
was
people are in there.
Probably already getting a little bigger then. Yeah, she's one of the best ever.
Well, she was a lead, but the other nurses are smaller.
Oh, sure.
They're
yeah,
about
yeah,
to do. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so continuing to move through the list here, we get to producers on the film. We already talked about Gale Ann Hurd and Bruckheimer. I mean, it's kind of one of these guys. It's like, what do you even say about Bruckheimer, Joel Silver? These are like the big hitters. Bruckheimer and Don Simpson did movies together until '96. Don Simpson passed away. Bruckheimer continued.
We've done this
Passed
talk
away, yeah.
so many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Continued the franchise. I mean, Bruckheimer ended up with the Transformers franchise, with the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise.
Sherlock Holmes, right? Didn't
Yeah.
you do that too?
No, I think that's Joel Silver.
that's Silver,
Yeah.
yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop. I mean, Bruckheimer's about as rich as they get. And he may do Top Gun 2, actually. There's been a lot of talk.
Finally.
You're hoping?
Please, before Val Kilmer dies, please do this.
I would.
To me, he's the Carrie Fisher of the situation. You don't know what's going to happen.
Would you? So if they did that movie, would you be okay with Fat Kilmer or?
You want him to
Well,
lose
he's not
weight.
Fat Kilmer anymore.
Yeah, it's
But-
true.
but-
Because his cancer, he's lost weight.
But you never know what you're gonna get.
That's true.
Yeah.
But if you watch the
cancer.
behind the scenes
Yeah.
of the reissue of Top Gun, the 25th anniversary, the interviews with him are illuminating. With
Really?
Val Kilmer,
He's
illuminating.
incredible.
It's an hour and a half behind the scenes documentary on it. It's worth it.
One of my
because of
favorites ever.
all the people they talk to about it in current time. And Kilmer's one of the best.
I love Kilmer, man.
Yep.
I think he's so talented.
We talk a lot about when he came out of hiding and showed up in Deja Vu as
Yeah.
Fat Kilmer.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Fucking Bad Lieutenant with Port of Call, New
Yeah,
Orleans.
right,
He's
right.
Fat Kilmer there too.
I
Yeah.
still think his greatest role ever is Dieter von Kant and MacGruber. Moving on.
It's gotta be Doc Holliday. Let's keep going.
Better
Let's
than
talk.
the Saint? What? Yeah.
Yes, he's so good.
Andrew loves the Saints.
I
so
really
much.
do. All right, so moving into box office and critical.
Let's get some coffee or something. Yeah.
Dude, he's so good. Almost as good as Wesley Snipes in The Art of War.
Oh, shit!
I believe we
You
haven't
are
met.
pulling left and
We
right.
still have it.
Sir. All right, so this movie cost $140 million to make. I can only imagine how much of that went towards the actual actors in the film.
Right.
It opened July 1st, a big summer blockbuster, 1998. It grossed $201 million domestically, which is actually just behind Saving Private Ryan domestic. And then it grossed an additional 352 worldwide for a gross grand total of $553 million, just over $500 million. The first movie to gross $500 million from a Disney production studio or something like that.
Wow.
I believe is what it was. And it opened at $36 million at number one. And like I said, I mean, it was the biggest movie in 1998. We've got a box office graphic here of worldwide pulled up. There's a lot of great movies in there. Can we zoom in on that just a little bit?
Yeah, let's see what it's above. Oh,
I can't read anything.
not a surprise.
Yeah, right.
What's number 2? Oh, Saving Private Ryan.
Private
That's
Ryan.
right. Because Armageddon is better.
Is that Godzilla number 3?
Oh, God. I don't know why that is.
I still can't really read that.
Yeah.
It's something about Mary number 4.
Yeah.
There you go. Something About Mary, which I love. A Bug's Life, Deep Impact, which was kind
I
of...
love that Deep Impact managed to end up as the number 6 movie. That's unbelievable. Came out the same summer. It's
And
the
the
same
trivia,
fucking
they were
premise.
saying that it actually did pretty well, and they were almost a little worried about it.
Yeah, Mulan. I'm looking forward to the live action remake of that one.
Can't wait. Truman Show, huge fan of that. Lethal Weapon 4
Got Shakespeare
also.
in Love up in there.
God, the 90s were just so great.
Lethal Weapon 4, it's one of your favorites ever. I can't believe that.
Zorro.
I mean, both that Shakespeare in Love made the kind of money that it did.
Damn right it did.
Also, the Truman Show made that much money.
Yep.
I mean,
Well, Carrie's still in his prime at that point.
yeah, I guess it's true. It was
Shakespeare in Love, that movie will never make sense to me, making as much money as it did, winning Best Picture. Like, I just don't get it that year.
I just rewatched it again last night.
But it beats
Oh,
Saving
no, 2
Private
nights ago.
Ryan.
Damn right it did. It's a better film than Saving Private Ryan. I have fought this fight on numerous shows. Shakespeare in Love deserves that Oscar.
I
mean, because after the first...
Was that Marissa?
What'd you say, Marissa? Yeah, that's right.
Marissa Serafini in the booth.
After the
everybody.
first 30 minutes of Saving Private Ryan, it's just...
Oh, God, I
because he
love it,
doesn't
man.
want to be saved. He doesn't want to be saved. The whole point of the movie, and he doesn't want to be saved.
All right, Rocha. Let's get back to the show.
Calm down.
Marissa Serafini in the booth. Drew tried to just highlight her before Rocha just steamrolled the
I
comment.
apologize.
Thank you for doing the show today, Marissa. We appreciate it. You're awesome.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for agreeing with me, Marissa.
Marissa, we'll talk after the show. Critically, this movie got a 6.6 from IMDb, and the critics... I mean, it's perfect for this movie. All critics gave it a 39. Top gave it a 26. The audience gave it a 73.
Damn right it did.
I actually think that the audience score should be in the 80s.
Yes,
I think that
agreed.
seems more fitting. But yeah, I mean, what do you expect out of this movie? That's what you want. You want the audience to just lose their shit over it. The critics to be like, well, this isn't going to work. Because there's, 168 plus things that are known errors in the film that Michael Bay were just like, who gives a shit? No one knows about space.
Imagine you like to find... Oh, is my mic off?
Uh-oh.
Did it just die? Marissa, can you still hear me?
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Back up
touching
again.
that thing.
I was just going to say, imagine you light a firecracker and you put it in your hand. Yeah. It explodes, nothing happens. You light the same firecracker and close your fist.
Your
I'm
wife's
just
gonna.
Isaacs.
What is it?
You're gonna have to open
your
your-
wife's gonna have you having your ketchup for the rest of your life. It's like, what? Why is it ketchup?
Great lines. These are great lines.
It's because
Kill
he's.
me before the war's over. Looks like you're not the better man.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's like, what do English people think Americans do? Eat ketchup on everything. Of
That's
course.
right.
Write that in.
Let me show you how we do this in America. Let me use this Gatling gun on my rover. Like, why the fuck was there like a huge automatic Gatling gun on both rovers? Like, were they expecting hostiles on this fucking asteroid?
You never know, man.
Get off the nuclear weapon.
Yes.
All of that, yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing. All right.
I love the scene where they're all coming in with different ways to solve the problem, and they're just the most inane things. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
We got to do better than this.
Yeah.
Aren't you guys NASA? You guys are just coming up with shit. You're just coming up with shit to come up with shit.
Right. All right, so moving on here, we're going to get into favorite line. I'm going to go last since I already talked about mine earlier. Let's go with Rocha. Rocha's got
Really?
that voice.
There's a
Rocha.
million of favorite lines in this movie, but the one that always gets me every goddamn time is when Will Patton is going up to talk to his ex-wife or whatever we don't know what she is,
Right.
but we know that she's the mother of his child. And that whole scene, cry every time.
Really?
Every single time I cry. And when he says, what does he say? I got something coming up, something kind of big. You just might be proud of me.
It's a good line.
That's when he says it.
great
Because
line.
there's so much
Yeah.
inside of what he's saying that is more than just about their relationship. It's he's saying like, I know I've been a mess up my whole life.
Yeah.
I know I wasn't there for you. Like you can read all those levels, and I know that like you're doing a better job raising our child, and he's going to be great because you're in charge of him. But I think I got a shot to show you that I've changed my life around, and that I'm better now.
One of the things we
do something worthwhile.
Yep.
One of the things we always talk about is that, like, with the 90s, 80s, 90s action movies that we love so much, the whole premise of founding this show is that most of the time the action is not the thing we like the most.
Not even
it tends to be the emotional scenes and the intense showdown scenes between the characters that are the ones that stick with us, and that's why it's like in The Rock, it's like him talking to the grave at the beginning, or like the shower room showdown before the guns start flying. Though I do love the sidearm from Michael Biehn when he's on the ground. But like so I agree with you. I think that's a great moment.
Well, the action's what keeps you awake.
Yeah.
And the moments in between is what keep you engaged.
Yeah.
Because then other than it's a Fast and Furious movie. Like Fast and Furious is great to watch its action. Transformers too, great to watch its action. But the ones we love, the ones we really love, are because they have these great emotional connections between the actors.
Edge of Tomorrow, man.
Yeah, Edge of Tomorrow's great.
Cruise and Emily Blunt.
Absolutely,
Unbelievable.
absolutely.
Palpable.
So they always Lethal Weapon, which we referenced earlier, same thing. Their connection is what makes those action sequences work.
Between Murtaugh and Gary Busey.
Yeah, that's right.
Murtaugh. All right,
let's continue moving down.
You go spit.
Yeah, I think my favorite line's got to be the one that I opened the show with. And that's just, I love when they're arguing over the ship, and he's like, William Fichtner just looks back at him. He's like, "You and your men are the worst mistake NASA's ever made in the history of NASA." You're like, "Oh no, he did! You
cannot bring NASA into this."
You're just like, "Oh man."
Fincher's so good at that. Just hate you. Yeah.
Requesting permission to shake the hand of the daughter of the bravest man I've ever met. Affleck's like, "Can I kiss the girl, please? Please, Bob, can we do this later?" Yeah.
I like the space age pliers that are applied to it.
Yeah, like, so good.
You assure me that you hit to depth. You assure me on the lives of your daughter. I never missed a depth yet.
My phone died, so that's a thing.
Oh no!
But my quote is the one that Billy Bob gives. He's like, "Damage? Or what is
This
it?
is
Like,
damage total, sir.
total, sir." It's
So
like,
we
it's
call
a
it
global killer.
Yeah, global killer.
He's like, "Nothing will survive, sir. Not even bacteria."
Yeah.
And that was when he said that, "Nothing will survive, not even bacteria." First of all, that's not a real thing. Second of all, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when he said that, I was like, "That's not true, but it's fucking awesome."
What I was gonna say is like, I love when he's like global killer, but like the thing you mentioned about, or it's in the trailer about the size of the thing being Texas. That's one of the Bay-isms we forgot. It's like talking head saying something and somebody being like, "Explain it to me in English, please." And something like, "Global killer, everyone dead." How big is it? Well, it's like it's the size of Texas. It's like, oh my god. The guy being like, "I hate to say it, but the advisor to the president is wrong. Do you really want to trust a guy who got a C- in astrophysics?" And he's like
this.
And then he's like, here's a metaphor. You light a firecracker. You're like, all right.
Ketchup.
Yeah, ketchup. So that shit happens in all the movies.
I want to give a shout out to Jessica Steen because that's my second favorite line, and she's so hot in this film. Jessica, if there's any way anybody can connect me with Jessica Steen, please do. I have such a massive crush. She's the other co-pilot of the shuttles, and she's the one that walks up to Bear and goes,
"Just kick him in the nuts."
Yeah, because I'm trying to explain to you why if I was to kick you in the nuts, you wouldn't fly off into space.
Yeah.
And he's like, "When do we?" And Buscemi goes, "When do we train for that?" Yeah. And it's just a great, that's a great sequence.
And that's when Owen Wilson's
she's awesome.
like, "Is it just me, or is such and such really hot?"
Yeah, kind of hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got a quick story to tell before we move into the last.
Look at those steel blue eyes. Canadian. She was in that film with Michael Richards and Jeff Daniels, the courtroom movie, which I can't remember the name of.
Don't remember.
Yeah.
So in the whole entire sequence where all the astronauts are training, all the NASA guys are training all the fucking roughnecks and everything. They've decided that it's a better idea to train, drillers to be astronauts than astronauts to be drillers.
Which I know that you said that your thing, but Ben Affleck said that to Michael Bay. He's like, "Wouldn't it be easier if we trained astronauts to drill?" And it just says Michael Bay told him to shut up.
Yeah. Do you see the paycheck? Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of our buddies was the camera op on this movie, and he was like, "Let me tell you this good story." He's like, "So, everybody shows up to NASA in Houston. It's the first time ever that NASA granted access for an entire film. Wow. They're fully inside. They got to every part of NASA.
They were around 19 $15 billion worth of equipment filming this movie.
I mean, they were there forever. So like the underwater sequence where they're all doing the simulations in the spacesuits, those are real, actual, functional spacesuits that were built for Affleck and Willis.
There were 2 suits for $10 million each. All the rest of them were $3 million apiece.
Wow.
So my buddy tells us, he's like, all right, so we all show up to NASA and we're all getting ready to shoot. It's 3 days of prep to shoot this underwater sequence. And he's like, and all of a sudden we find out that without the proper training and taking the classes, nobody's allowed to get in the water. He's like, mind you, only 2 people in spacesuits ever had been in this pool, the simulation pool.
Wow.
Normally it's divers, a couple divers that are like kind of basically observing. He's like, we were trying to get 6 astronauts in the water. He's like, as well as the entire crew who's shooting, in suits. So he's like, we find out we have to take this class. Everybody there, the cinematographer, Michael, everyone's got to take this class. Not only have to pass like a written, but they have to pass a physical as well to go in the water. Because this is what the astronauts have to do every time they go in the water. So he's like, everyone. So Affleck, Willis, myself, we're all sitting in this room, and the instructor looks at us and he's like, all right, you guys have to take this class. And if you don't pass it, you're not going in the water. And so he's like, if you need to go to the bathroom, we will pause the class. You will get up. We will resume the class when you come back. So they're all sitting there. Willis has got his feet up on a desk.
Of course.
And Affleck's pretty well behaved. And about 15 minutes in, Willis is like, I got to go to the bathroom. And gets up, leaves. He's like, okay, Mr. Willis, just want to let you know, if you don't come back, we will wait for you. Anytime you go past 10 minutes, we'll stay after class to finish at the end of the day. Oh, Willis doesn't come back.
Never.
After like 15, 20 minutes of waiting, Affleck gets up. I got to go to the bathroom. He's like, I just want you to know, if you don't come back. So gets up, leaves, doesn't come back. Wow. Don't tell Michael Bay. So they go to shoot the scene. Bay finds out day of, we can't put these guys in the fucking suits. They can't get in the water.
They didn't stick around.
They can literally put the suit on. They can get lowered in the cage into the water on a crane, but they are not allowed to move. They can't leave the cage. They can't shoot any of the scenes. So if you go watch the movie, you'll notice it's only shots that don't show their face when they're flying around the pool. It's a close-up of Affleck with the pipe. But it's just like this, and it's Willis. So they never actually do any of the scenes moving around, and they couldn't. Apparently, they fucking couldn't shoot any of it.
Movie stars, man.
Yeah.
Movie stars.
Here's millions of dollars. You have to sit through this meeting. Fuck it.
You know, Daniel Day-Lewis would have been teaching the meeting by the end of it. You know that.
Yeah, and the suits are cut for the actors. So, like, they wasted millions of dollars on these suits.
Unbelievable. Oh, speaking of, this just reminded me, fun little trivia fact. Bruce Willis had an additional trailer on set. A second trailer that cost $175,000. There was a full operational working gym just for him.
Yes. When I was on the... Go ahead. Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
Never used it.
Never used it.
Never stepped in it.
That's the perks. Those are the writers, right? When I was on... The first time I came out to L.A., I got on the set of Wind Talkers, and I did 6 months as an extra on that. I got my SAG card, everything like that. Nick Cage had a separate trailer with a chef on call in the trailer to make whatever food he wanted to have made, and it was a trailer of legend for us. We would like find it wherever we were, different places, because we shot in different locations, and so we'd hunt for the trailer, the Nick Cage trailer that had this chef inside that would make whatever, and it was amazing. It was a beautiful trailer.
Imagine walking in somewhere, just literally anything you want to eat.
Yeah.
We had lobster on that set.
Did you watch Arsenal, by the way?
Not yet. I haven't seen that one yet. The sequel.
To Deadfall.
Yeah, to Deadfall from 1994.
It's pretty. And he dies in Deadfall.
Already?
Yeah.
You saw it?
John Sheck. I sat down and did an hour with him last week, and he told me some really good Cage stories.
That's so man.
It was very, very fun.
I would love to get stuck on in a cabin with that guy for a weekend. Cage.
Yeah.
Just to have those stories of his life.
He's incredible.
It's always good when a sequel comes out 22 years later.
Yeah,
it's like not even really a sequel. Is the funny part, because his character dies in Deadfall.
Yeah.
But it's like they came up with a way to just like do it anyway. I don't even know. It's bizarre. Anyway, go watch that interview, guys. If you like Cage, you'll laugh. He tells some great stories about Ed Harris. His name's John Sheck. It's a Popcorn Talk I Talk. So let's move through to recast.
This is a throwback.
Yeah, we don't do the full recast as much as we used to, but this time we decided we would recast the main 4 characters in this film. If the film were to be remade today, let's start going backwards to forward.
Okay.
With the Billy Bob Thornton character of Truman, who do we start with?
I went with Mr. J.K. Simmons. The
that's a good choice.
Is so good at being direct and getting the point across, but then the emotional part that you need at the end of the movie, perfect.
Yeah, great actor. I went with Kyle Chandler, Mr. Coach T,
nice.
Friday Night Lights, Bloodline, phenomenal actor. Really one of my all-time favorite actors as Coach T is one of my all-time favorite characters, and I think he would just knock it out of the park. He's so good.
Yeah.
I went with Sam Jackson. because I thought you got to have some color in this damn movie, and I put him in there, and I thought he'd be great because he could play the whole thing with the leg, and because Sam's an actor, so he can play these smaller parts like Billy Bob. Billy Bob brought a lot of grav. People don't talk about this and about this movie. Billy Bob is the gravitas of this movie.
Absolutely,
he is the anchor of the movie. Everything else, everybody else can act fool, be ridiculous, but he is the anchor of the movie. If you don't have Billy Bob Thornton, this movie falls apart. And screw you if you think it falls apart already. Without Billy Bob, it falls apart completely. So that's why I thought Sam Jackson would be the perfect guy. Could do the combo of acting it and what have you. Yeah.
John Rocha, 86 years old. Screw you if you think Armageddon sucks.
That's gonna be on my tombstone.
Yeah, that's what I said.
I like that I'm until 86. I can handle 86. Yeah, my other choice was Gibson, but Mel because it's kind of metaphorical because Mel can't be an action star anymore.
Yeah, right.
Can't be, and so it'd be good. It'd be interesting. Those lines would have more weight to them when he says, "I wish I could go up with you. I can't do it anymore." It'd be great. So.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that Billy Bob, like in interviews, people have talked to him about the acting. That he always says it's not that bad. I think he's actually really good.
He's great at it.
I think he's
and
great.
he's got like a whole backstory to why he couldn't participate. Because like Bay asked him, like, "What's the thing?" He's like, "Oh, he suffered crippling nerve damage as a young man. That's why he can't be an astronaut."
Yeah.
It's like you did the work. Wow.
Yeah.
I've talked about it on here before. I interviewed him like 2 months ago, and just the best, the fucking best. Like one of my favorite, just the nicest guy on earth.
Yeah.
Right.
Was fucking with me from the second I walked in the door. Just great. So second on the list, let's go to the Liv Tyler character.
I went with I just used her the other day, but I think it's even better now is Naomi Harris again.
Okay, yeah.
I love her. She's M in she's Moneypenny, in the new Bond movies, and she was just in Collateral Beauty.
And Southpaw.
Yeah, in Southpaw. She's just incredibly beautiful, and she's a very good actress.
Yeah, cool.
And she's also not white, which is going to
There
change
you go.
something in my recast.
Whammy! We need an awesome black movie star to play the lead role in this movie. I wonder who it's gonna be. Yeah. I wonder who it's gonna be.
Yeah. Mine is Brie Larson.
Oh,
for the
great.
Liv Tyler role.
Yeah,
Once again, I'm trying to give a little more gravitas to this film. I think Brie would be great in this part, and I think there'd be more to.
Oh my God, our two are the same until I changed Willis.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think Brie is a great. You cheated, you son of a. I think Brie is so good, and I think she would never probably do this now because she's a lead and an Oscar-winning actress. But she's in Kong Skull Island, so there's certainly possibilities, and I think she'd do a great job and find even more levels that Liv didn't quite get to in this film. And I think it'd be great to see her do it.
Great actress.
Yep.
Yeah, that one seems like that's my father.
Yeah, she would
so
kill
good.
that.
So good.
Yeah.
I decided to go with Adrian Palicki.
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm going full Friday Night Lights
feel
on
like
this.
you are, yeah.
But she's great, and she's also reached, I think, a level as an actress now where she doesn't seem like a teenager as much as she used to. That I think she could handle this role, and I think she's a good actress. And I don't think the role honestly demands that much. Is the interesting thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think you could have a Brie Larson. I don't think you need one, and I think she was very good as Tara, and I think she could handle it.
Did you use? Who'd you use for
Taylor
Ben
Kitsch?
Affleck?
Do you have Taylor Kitsch?
What?
Did you use Taylor Kitsch?
No, I should have.
You should have.
You know I
yeah.
love Riggins. He's one of the all-timers.
Okay, so I told Ben off camera that I've started watching Friday Night Lights. I'm halfway through the first season. Riggins is a dick. So if that changes, great, because then I'll understand why people love him so much. But right now, he's kind of a jerk.
Oh, he's got a really good arc, man.
Sleeping with your best friends.
He is a good man.
Okay.
Like, you talking about Friday Night Lights is like when we talk about Armageddon to you. It's like you guys are both very defensive of your movies.
Oh my god. There's so many good moments. Anyway,
who'd you use as Ben Affleck?
For Ben Affleck, I decided to go with the man I like to call Shia LaBeouf. LaBeouf.
Oh, interesting.
I thought so. Basically, he's exactly what he would be in Transformers, except older now.
Yeah.
A little more confident.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. I find Shia LaBeouf to be a phenomenally talented actor in the right roles.
Yeah.
I think he's great. And as kind of a hothead young guy who could go up against the awesome guy that I have cast in the Bruce Willis character, I think Shia would be great. I like the idea of it. I think he would play well off Adrian Palicki.
Right.
Be great. So
Rocha, go ahead, because we use the same person.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling. I thought Gosling would be great. He's just at the cusp where he can still do this role.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think he would work, like 1 or 2 more years, he can't do it. But right now, he could.
yeah.
And the other thing, too, is that I think that he has that, you're too damn good looking to be working on an oil rig. Damn it.
Affleck had,
Which is what Affleck has in this
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But
right.
when you see him in Remember the Titans, he has that Southern accent. He has that kind of approach. Boyish type thing. So he could channel into that to play the Affleck character and think he knows better.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing about Affleck in this movie. He always thinks he knows better.
Right.
And Gosling just
Yeah.
exudes that.
Yeah, Affleck had like figured out a lot of things about himself as an actor. He had gotten good at certain things, and then there was the moments like you mentioned that are cringy, where you're like, you're just like not likable. You're just like, such a cock.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also, I think, I mean, you watch people develop and mature as actors, and he was just young.
Yeah.
You know, like super young.
Yeah, 25.
Yeah, super young.
I mean,
Totally.
how many of us could carry a film at 25? A blockbuster
Give me a
movie?
chance 3 years ago.
I hate that he was 25 when he got this.
Anyone that's successful and younger than me, I hate.
Shit, I want to kill Michael Pena. He has my career right now.
Oh my God, Oscar Isaacs has my career right now.
Oh, interesting. Nice. I like that.
I'm doing my career right now.
Hi-oh! Ben Bateman, ladies
The
and
only
gentlemen.
person who's happy.
FTW right now.
All right, last but not least,
Yes.
guys. I'm just going to go first because it's going to get panned. I'm going with the Bloodfather himself. He can still be a movie star, Mr. Mel Gibson.
Wow.
Look, I haven't even seen The Bloodfather, but just how jacked he looks in the trailer, I'm like, he could do it.
Yeah, I gotta
He
see
could do
that.
it.
I gotta see that.
It looks sweet, actually.
It does, right?
Yeah, that's great.
I was on Geek and Sundry on one of the, and they'd showed the trailer, and everyone else on the panel was like, "Oh, it looks," and I'm like, "I'm telling you right now, this movie is going to be fantastic." And it got like 81% on Rotten
it looks
Tomatoes.
great.
Yeah. Everyone else came up to me and was like, "You were right, damn it, you were right." I'm like,
Sweet.
Love it.
I know my Gibson.
And I know my Denzel Washington.
Oh,
And I'm
nice
telling
choice.
you right now, at the very end when he's talking to Liv Tyler,
Yeah.
and he's like, "I made a promise, but I'm gonna have to break that promise, sweetie." Like if he did that,
I can get a half gallon. I can get a
get
half gallon.
I'll get a half gallon on the way back from the moon, or from the meteor. I was thinking of him giving
great.
that speech, and it like made me tear up even more. Because Willis does a good job. I guess Willis had a picture of his daughter in front of the the camera to help him cry, but like Denzel delivering those lines gave me chills.
Yeah.
Because you do that look away.
Yeah, the look away at the lip bite.
Yeah, the lip bite. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Willis did that for Die Hard when he's having that scene with Legend of L. Johnson. It's Demi Moore. He's talking about Demi Moore. Huh. Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he said that in numerous interviews. Do I go now?
Yeah,
sure. why
Kevin Costner, man.
I had
Kevin-
that.
You don't think
Costner.
Costner's too old to play it now?
To play Bruce Willis?
Yeah.
Hell no.
Willis is still kind of like young dad, roughneck guy.
Well, he doesn't have to do. I mean, that's the same. Like Denzel's like. He's gonna be older and like chubby, but it's like he's the greatest drill master in the world.
Yeah, Costner would play. I mean, I was maybe going to go with Denzel for this as well, and I changed at the last minute. But I like
So funny we
Costner.
switched.
Yeah, because I like Costner because if you see him in Criminal, if you see him in 3 Days, if you see him, he still can play these dad parts.
Yeah,
and
Man of Steel.
Man of Steel,
the best.
right?
So
Which I loved him
good.
in that movie, and so it's like, so he can still do it.
We love him in the trailer.
Oh.
No, he's
He's the best
He's
part
the
of
best
it.
part of the
Yeah.
movie. But his scenes in the trailer, the scene when he's like, "Can I keep just going on being your son?
Yeah.
Pretend to be your son." He's like, "You are my son."
son.
Cry every time.
Every time?
In the trailer.
Right.
So, all right, guys, before we get into the last bit here, I will ask the one question. We got a ton of submissions this week for AMA Question of the Week.
Yeah, I mean, this has been such a long episode.
Yeah, and I'll just throw it out there really quickly because it's nice and simple, but we really barely talked about it. And that's, is this the greatest movie-written ballad of all time? And, you know, I think because we didn't really talk about Steven Tyler all that much or the song all that much. And, you know, in the summer when this movie came out, it was this and Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls were the two big ballads on the radio. They were both number one for something like 10 or 12 weeks. I think this just barely beat it by being on like a week longer at number one. But, I mean, this is like the classic slow dance
It's
song.
a great song.
Yeah.
It's a really good fucking song.
And it crescendo. Diane Warren
great
wrote
song,
this.
yeah.
Diane Warren wrote
Yeah.
this song,
Yeah.
and it crescendos
Yeah.
to where it's been. Diane is just amazing at writing these kinds of ballads. I would say "Kiss from a Rose" is better.
Batman
That's
Forever,
my joy.
yeah.
Kiss from a Rose is just that much better than this.
They're two of my 5 karaoke songs.
Yeah.
So
I've got to come see that because I will skip over this sometimes if I'm flipping channels.
Yeah.
I'll never skip over "Kiss from a
Yeah.
Rose."
That's interesting because I'm the exact opposite.
You go Kiss from a Rose?
I would not listen to Kiss from a Rose over this song. I would listen to this over Kiss from a Rose. I don't know why. I think it's because I watched Batman Forever so many times as a kid that I just got tired of it.
I will say
That's fair.
I would put this ahead of Kiss from a Rose. Oh God, it's fucking close. I love Kiss from a Rose,
Yeah.
but the greatest of all time is "I Will Always Love You" from The Bodyguard. It's just
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a remake. It wasn't made for the movie.
Oh, it's not written for the movie?
Yeah, Dolly Parton did that first. That's a remake of a Dolly Parton song,
I
Ben.
take it back then. I'm ignorant.
What about Brian McKnight and the Three Musketeers?
Oh my gosh.
No, or what about
Brian Adams.
Brian Adams in Robin Hood,
Yeah.
right?
No, it's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Yeah.
Everything I do.
Yeah, I think that's got to be number one.
All right,
That's got to be number one.
Meatloaf. I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. It's not even from a movie. It's just a good
I
song.
was
It's
gonna
a great song.
Like I've been through it. I was like, it's just a good song.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap up that question. I wish I had in front of me the actual user that submitted that question.
I feel bad as well. My phone's so dead.
Because, my phone is on airplane. But to the user that submitted it, I will tag
Thank you, user.
I will tag you in the comments, and I will tweet at you to let you know that we used the question, just because we got a lot of submissions this week, and it was like a 90-minute episode. So the last thing is, this is an interesting one this week. There are 3 action movie categories. There are totally ridiculous, totally legitimate, and ridiculously legitimate. We explain them every week. Ridiculous is like Con Air and Face Off. They kind of unintentionally laugh their way to the bank, though they're awesome. Totally legitimate is like Terminator 2, The Fugitive, Lone Survivor. They're really well put together. They hold together. They never really make you laugh. And then totally ridiculously legitimate is the middle category, and that's like Point Break, Speed, The Rock. And
Some
they're
of the best movies.
They're driven by really strong ideas, great performances, but you do laugh unintentionally in Predator and movies like that.
Yeah.
They just they have those moments where they lose you, but they're often the favorites. And this is a really hard one.
It really is. I'm so curious to see what you have to say.
It's ridiculously legitimate.
Okay.
There's no argument.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, there's no argument because they're roughnecks going up to do astronaut shit. That's ridiculous, but it's legitimate because of Billy Bob Thornton and NASA. All those scenes, Jason Isaacs, all those scenes give you that feeling that it's legitimate, and so to me, that balances it out.
I am going to go off the deep end. This is totally ridiculous.
Yeah,
in the best possible way. Totally ridiculous. Con Air, Face Off, some of my favorite movies ever made.
Yeah.
I mean, I adored this movie. This movie represents the 90s action to me.
Yeah.
That's what this is. But I laughed like every 2 minutes unintentionally at like just the awesome, hilarious ridiculousness of the scenes. There was very few moments that I found myself like, I mean, the moments I did tear up would be the strongest argument to move it to the middle category, and it's close. That almost gets me because I don't tear up in movies like this very often. But I still think, despite that, I would put it in the ridiculous category as the flagship movie.
And you know what? That whole hearing you guys talk really helped me process this. This movie is ridiculously legitimate. It 100% is, and the reasoning is you just said it, and I got there right before you did in my mind, which was that how many times do you watch a totally ridiculous movie and cry?
Yeah.
It almost never happens. That's
right. Yeah.
And like the relationship between Bruce and Liv and Ben, and Billy just being him, awesome in the film, makes this movie, I think, just legitimate enough to be in the middle category.
Even Will Patton and Bruce, when he's sitting there, he knows that Bruce is about to die. Die on the spaceship.
Yeah,
honestly,
he gets emotional.
I don't remember that line as well as you delivering it, but that just became my favorite line of the movie when you said it, because I that scene was so great.
With his son. With his,
it's a really good line.
And that actress is from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
she's April.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, that covers the categories. Thank you for watching the show. That was a long episode. That was so much fun.
Sorry, I'm long-winded.
This is
Sorry.
perfect. This is exactly what we wanted.
The last thing we're going to do here is called The Pitch. And we don't actually have a movie to pitch you guys.
We don't have a pitch.
We thought we were going to do Patriots Day next week, and what I found when seeing Patriots Day was that I really liked the movie in a lot of ways. Yeah. It's not fun to laugh about anything. Nope. It's way too close to home. It's kind of a disturbing movie in a lot of ways. In all the ways that United 93 was amazing for casting unknowns largely, this movie felt almost like disingenuous for casting so many stars in the big roles. It's kind of hard to watch. Worth seeing. Peter Berg's a great director. I love the genre. But just didn't have the popcorn Deepwater Horizon thing, and it was not Lone Survivor, which is like one of my favorite movies.
Right.
It's just something about it just kind of, so I don't think we should really do it on the show. It wouldn't feel right.
I'm in complete agreement with you.
So we're going to post a poll this week, guys. If you follow along on Twitter, you can find our Twitter at AMA Podcast, and the poll for next week's film will be up. If you want to follow along in the conversation, tweet at us your thoughts. Let us know things we missed. I mean, we covered so much today. You can follow me personally at Ben Bateman Media on Twitter and Instagram.
You guys can find me at Andrew Ghai on Instagram and Twitter as well.
Oh, yeah, and find me at The Rocha Says, ROCHA, on Twitter and on Instagram. And follow me, because I always interact with you guys, so please.
Yeah, and one more time, dude, thank you so much for coming back.
Oh, my God.
We were so excited to have you.
Listen, this has been one of the greatest hour and a halves of my life.
Yes.
So to spend it with you guys and being able to talk about this movie, I mean, I could go another hour and a half about this movie. It's just so much. I have so much love for it. So thank you so much for giving me the platform to talk about it with you guys.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Totally, man. Guys, thanks for watching. We will see you same time. Actually, it'll be earlier next week, but we'll see you at the normal time of 12:30 next week.
Take care.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.